Happy 4th of July! For Podcast 25, we're grateful to bring you a very special guest all the way from Wisconsin. Kay interviews Wayne May about his conversion to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Enjoy.
As we have discussed in the past, we're going to, at times, deviate just a little bit from some of the things we've been talking about relative to the life of the prophet Joseph, and venture out into areas that are similar yet a little different. And today we have a wonderful opportunity to interview a close friend of mine, Wayne May. Wayne, welcome to Utah.
Thank you, Kay. It's
good to see you.
Here. Good to see you as always.
Wayne and I go back a ways. In fact, we go back quite a ways.
Quite a ways.
About 15 years ago, Wayne and I had an opportunity to tour with Rod Meldrum, and the three of us, referred to on occasion as the Three Amigos, had quite a production going on. Rod would address geography and DNA related stuff. Wayne was our Indian guru, and I dealt with church history and Joseph.
Good team.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
Good team.
Those were long trips.
Yes, it was.
Really long trips at times. We went from one end of the country to the other, and we saw a lot, and we learned a lot, and we taught a lot. Great groups of people joined us. And then the next opportunity, Wayne, I remember you and I spending some time on both sides of the Mississippi near Nauvoo. In particular, across the Mississippi from Nauvoo, looking at sites you were interested in with regards to Indian mounds.
That is correct. We covered quite a few. People, what I had to go and find is that I needed to identify Hopewell being up and down the Mississippi River, because the minute you say Hopewell, everybody's mind shifts to Ohio. And I had to find out, well, how much Hopewell is out here in Iowa, Illinois, and maybe even further out into Missouri. And I wasn't disappointed. There is a lot.
There is a lot, and I remember you showcasing a lot of sites. A couple in particular still striking. There was one that was kind of an island-ish. It seems like there was water around it, and there was this island, and it was literally a mound itself. I don't know if you recall that particular site or not.
I'm trying to remember which one that was. There's several.
That are similar to that?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, there are some really fascinating places around Nauvoo, and I thought I knew Nauvoo well. It was great going with you then. And then you and I had an opportunity to do something that was really kind of fun. We actually performed some archaeological digs on about 10,000 acres of property right across from Adamond.
That is correct. That belonged to, I'm trying to remember the guy's, Merrill?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Brother Merrill. And he had a lot of mounds on his place, and we were able to actually just what I call a shovel dig, do a quick scan to see if we could pick up anything on the surface. Preferably just shards, maybe some flint flakes from points from napping, and we didn't find too much, but the mounds I think were extremely old, and again, because of the age, the good old Midwestern soil, things don't last very long; they break down quickly. I
know one thing that we did determine is that there was an diamond outpost there on that side of the Grand River that had a terrific view of anything that might be coming that direction.
There was definitely that big hilltop. It overlooked the river.
Yes.
And I was able to determine there were post molds all the way around, and it made a nice big square. So something there about approximately 16 by 16 area,
yes,
as I recall.
Yes.
We don't know how tall, but it wouldn't have taken too much because you already had a 360 view off the top of this hill on his property. So any kind of tower, 10, 15 feet or more, would have really accented what we could already see.
It was some wonderful times. Wayne and I've dug in the dirt more than once. Oh, Wayne, let's talk just a little bit about where this all started. Are you native to Wisconsin?
Yes, I am. I'm native to Wisconsin, and I have to tell you what happened to me. We lived in a small farm village called Boyceville, Wisconsin. My parents moved just 15 miles away into Menominee, Wisconsin, and it was a summer between my 3rd and 4th grade year. And lo and behold, the Red Cedar River that cut through Menominee and both sides, they decided to erect a dam on the Red Cedar. Well, in so doing, the Menominee Park was called Wakanda, and the swimming area was actually a Native American burial ground.
Really?
Yeah, about 30 plus mounds. So what happened was they knew they were going to lose these under 60 feet of water once the dam was in place. So up comes a team out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that summer they labored very intensely, and they worked 2 or 3 mounds at a time, and they basically excavated, as far as I know, all of the mounds. And so I, as a kid, being interested in Indians and cowboys, that's where my mindset was at.
Sure.
Whenever I could go down to Wakanda Park, I would run down there as a kid on my bike, and we have what's called some really low, we call them scrub oak trees. They are oaks, but they stay small. They don't get very big. So I would scurry up into the oak tree and sit up there above the mounds, and I'd watch the archaeologists go down inch by inch every day. And as they did that, of course, the skeletal remains would be revealed just inch by inch. And so actually that's kind of where it started for me. I got hooked. I mean, I was really hooked.
I've never heard that story before.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, you're a convert to the church.
Yes.
Did any of this tie into your conversion to the gospel?
No. And I usually, on all my talks, I make that very clear. When I joined this church, the missionaries did not track me out. They came into a menswear store where I was working because one of them needed a pair of trousers. And once I got them suited up, they headed for the door, and actually my introduction to the church would have been over, except I asked a question. How come the two of you have the same first name? I had never seen anybody called Elder.
Elder and
in my
Elder.
entire life. I thought, how unusual. So I asked them, and once I said that, they're on me like bees on honey. And it took 2.5 years because I was into my sophomore year, and I really studied things out very carefully. I wanted to be really, really sure. And let me tell you, before I got baptized, I had a 4-point going at school. And what I did, I went to all my professors. I said, it was April. School's out about mid-May. I said, if I don't show up for finals, what's my grade going to be? They said, well, anywhere from, A minus to B plus. I said, good enough. I jumped in my car. Now, the missionary that I'd met 2.5 years early, or 2 years earlier, he now is at BYU going to school. So I arranged to come out and meet him, and I stayed with him. I went to classes for a week at BYU. I wanted to see if these people really lived what they taught. And I found out they did.
Wow, that's
and
incredible.
I was amazed. They were really as clean as they said they were. I mean, I was shocked. And I went home and I got baptized.
That's quite a story.
That's what happened.
All because of Elder and Elder.
That's right, Elder and Elder.
My gosh.
And it's funny, I didn't name one of my kids Elder. I should have.
All right, you've got these 2 tracks going on, a real interest in the archaeology that started at a really young age, and now you've joined the church. So where did this impasse happen?
That's interesting because I'm in the church for 18 years. I've taught every class in primary, deacon, teacher, priest. I've been a seminary teacher. I mean, Sunday school, the whole 9 yards, elders quorum president. I've even been branch president already in that 18-year window. Now, at this point, because I am continuing to read on my own about the archaeology of the Midwest, in particular, Hopewell, my wife and I came out to Salt Lake, 1989. You got to realize that's like 1,400 miles to go to the temple, right? So we would go to the temple, and then the next day, we would, at that time, still in the late 70s, downtown Salt Lake does not look like what it does today. Every third store was a bookstore, every fourth store was a food storage store, and so she's in the food storage stores, I'm in the bookstores, and we raced to see who could throw the most stuff in the back seat. And when I got up to the back window, time to go home.
I see.
That's what we did. Now, my wife is driving the car, and I'm looking at one of my books, because I can't get them in Wisconsin, and I bought the personal writings of Joseph Smith by Dean C. Jesse.
Very good.
And I'm just paging through this book, and I see this letter from Joseph Smith, June 4, 1834. He's on the banks of the Mississippi, and he writes to Emma. Now, this is the Zion's Camp March. They've crossed Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and they're on the Mississippi. And I can't quote it exactly, but he says, we're sitting here on the banks of the Mississippi. We've just crossed the plains of the Nephites, picking up the skulls and bones as proof of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon, signed Joseph Smith, Jr. And now something really crazy happened. I'm sitting there, and I got to tell you, for me, things just came together. And I said to my wife, I said, Chris, and she looked over at me, and she could see I was kind of flustered. She said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing's wrong for me. But I said, Houston, we got a problem. That's what I said to her. You know, the good old space talk. And that's when it started for me, 1989. Now I spent 89 to 1992 calling Dr. John Sorensen at Farms. I wanted to speak to him and ask him, beg him to send a student out to Wisconsin so I could take him around for a week or 2 weeks and show him what's out here in the East.
Sure.
I wasn't out to tear apart Central America or knock down South America or wherever else the Book of Mormon lands are. I just wanted to come see what's in the East. And they wouldn't give me time of day. So that's just what it was. And then I made my first little video, and I had a Jewish friend, a Catholic friend, and an agnostic.
This sounds like a joke.
It does, but it's not. These are real guys. And I showed them, now here's the Book of Mormon, and because they knew me, they knew something about what I've been doing, because they wondered why I changed my life in such a way. But then when I showed them all this stuff, they said, you got to take this out west. These people got to know what's out here. I mean, they were impressed.
Yeah.
And not even members of the church, and they're not even baptized. So anyway, 93, I began publishing the Ancient American magazine, and that's when I began to come out here and began lecturing wherever I could get invited to go. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So for the last 35 plus years, you have been researching something that you found interesting when you were in the 4th and 5th grade.
1957.
Your library is exhaustive. I mean, it's outside of the magazine itself, and it's quarterly, correct?
That's correct.
And the books that you have, this all came about in 93-ish?
93, yeah. I didn't publish my first book till 2000. But I'm doing the magazine right along all the time.
Let me ask you a question or two about the magazine, because I've been on your list and received the magazine forever, it seems like. This isn't just devoted to the Adena and Hopewell Indians.
No, it's not.
It covers everything in the world, literally, in one form or another.
We try to stay in the Western Hemisphere as much as possible.
It's an incredible magazine. I'm just always been really curious. In a quarterly, 4 times a year, you have a lot to have to do in a quarter to be able to publish a magazine like this.
Yeah, it takes a lot.
Do you have a lot of folks that are out there looking for and searching for stories? How do you get those?
All right, let me tell you, this is how it happens, okay? Starting in the late 60s and then into the 70s, I'm going around to organizations that are talking about ancient history in America.
Okay.
And these organizations are what's called diffusion clubs. Our schools, universities, elementary school, whatever, they teach isolation.
Right.
Nobody here before Columbus.
Right.
Now, these groups I'm going to are saying, there's been other people here right along. And so I'm going to early sites in Indiana. I'm going to ancient earthworks in Madison, Wisconsin, Louisiana Mound Society, Shreveport, Louisiana, Midwest Epigraphic Society in Ohio, Gunjiwamp in North Carolina, NERA's in New England. I'm going to all these. Isaac in Columbus, Georgia. And they're pulling in 200 and 300 people at a time, and they've got tremendous people coming forward showing their work. And then I realize the work that they're showing is staying in a regional area, in a region. Outside that region, nobody knows what these guys are doing.
I see.
And that's when the lights came on to do a magazine and put it out across America. And I've been in Barnes & Noble from coast to coast.
Yeah, boy.
And these guys supply me with their research.
Yeah, these magazines are unlike any other. If you haven't had a chance to look at one of Wayne's magazines, Ancient America, I would strongly suggest you do so. The topics are all over the map, and yet they're all right here. I love them. They're great. So Wayne, tell me just a little bit when you decided to get into the book business.
Well,
how did this come about?
First of all, let me say this. For my first readers, I have gotten a lot better. I'm not a journalist. And there's a lot of mistakes in my books, but most everybody's been able to climb over that and continue on.
Sure.
Because I've had to, they've gotten better as I've gone along, let's put it that way. Because I never intended to do this. I just had all this information. I felt, I got to put it out there so people can read it, because I'm gleaning from the magazine.
Yes.
All these people around the country are seeing topics that relate to the Book of Mormon. I mean, they're talking our story, and they don't know it. They're talking our story. And I was just blown away, and I said, I got to get this information out. So the talks were few and far between.
I see.
But the book, I could get these books out. And it was interesting because I didn't have a lot of distribution at first, but my third book, if you grab this one right here, with that's a church painting on the cover. This was my first aha moment, because I had to get permission from the church
To use
the printing here, see,
Yeah.
by this lovely painting. Happens to be my favorite, and I believe the original is in the Logan Temple. And I sent it in. I had the book ready, and I really didn't think they would do it. I just thought, they probably think I'm some wacko out here, and maybe they're right. So anyway, it was about 10 weeks, and I said, okay, I'm not waiting anymore. I had a backup cover. Now, the guy in the church corporate, nice fellow, and he was very helpful. And then finally, I get a letter in the mail from him, and he said, go ahead and use the cover. And he told me how to put inside, give the church credit, which
Sure.
I did.
Sure.
And once I did that, then Deseret picked that up for a while, and I was able then to get 1 and 2 in for a while. I got them into Deseret at the bookstore at BYU.
Yeah.
And so it was picking up a little bit here or there. And plus, I was doing talks now, getting into 2003 when the second one came out, and then 5 for the next one, and on and on. So then I had something to leave with my people who would come to the lectures. Rather than just a couple of magazines, they could buy a book and have a good 200 plus pages of great stuff.
Well, and that kind of segues into the latest and greatest. I don't know how many books this would constitute, but tell us a little bit about your latest and newest little item.
Well, I'm at the point now, I've been doing this for so long, 28 years. I tried to, and even though as packed as that is, it's almost 3.5 hours. It's double discs, and basically the real focus, the real important stuff is all in these 2 DVDs. Even then, there's still some things I would like to have put in there more, but I felt that was enough. And it's loaded. And if you got anybody that's saying there's nothing in North America,
Yeah.
show them this. And if they still say that when they're done, they got a problem.
Book of Mormon Geography and Archaeology 2.
Yes.
There's a 1 then.
There's a one I put out in 2006.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to update that one, but I wanted to add to all the stuff that's come in since then.
Okay, well, Wayne, tell me now why you're here. You're on a circuit of sorts. What's with these stops? What's going on?
With COVID gone, prior to COVID, I had 6 stops lined up, 6 lectures. Some in stake centers, some not in stake centers. It really depends upon the stake president.
Sure.
And I found that out years ago.
Yep.
And this time now I lined up 5. I started up in Missoula, Montana. That was last Thursday, and then I drove down to Boise and did one in Boise in the afternoon, and then I was in Meridian for a night lecture that same day, and then I drove from there down to, we went to Elko, Nevada to see one of my kids and grandkids, my wife. I got her along. And then from there we jumped to the Sisters of Liberty. Is that right? Sisters of Liberty?
Yes.
That was yesterday, and had a fine turnout, had a lot of fun. It was great. And then now here we are tonight at the home of Trace Tanner, and to meet a nice group of people from this area.
And what are you telling these people? What is this?
I'm basically telling them that the Promised Land is North America. The Promised Land has always been North America since Joseph's time, and I also support Joseph Smith 100%.
Very good.
I'm a one-hill guy. I'm not a two-hill guy. One hill. That's it. It's always been one hill. It should have never happened, this connection south of the Rio Grande. It's great archaeology, but it's post-Book of Mormon. It's not the Book of Mormon story.
Very good. Has your reception been, have you been well received?
Oh yeah, very. I'm just going to tell you, I receive probably, and I don't mean to brag on this, I get about 8 to 10 emails or letters a month of people telling me, because of what they have seen on YouTube and my books, my magazines, and in person, they now have a whole new outlook on the Book of Mormon, and it's starting to make a whole lot more sense.
Well, you have people that attend your lectures that are not even LDS, are they?
That is correct. That is correct.
That's interesting.
Very correct.
Interesting. So what's the future for Wayne May? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm not getting any younger. That's the bad part. I wish I could be 50 again.
Don't we both?
Anyway, we are actively working on what I believe is the actual Zarahemla site across from Nauvoo.
Yeah.
I raised money with the help of several other guys, and we purchased that site, 2011.
The one I've been to?
The one you have been to. We now own it. It's safe. It's in private hands.
Very good.
We do need to raise money. There's 9 acres in front of it that we need to purchase, because if someone buys that and were to put a big enough, a 2-story building, we lose our view to the Nauvoo temple.
Yeah, you would.
Because our temple site, archaeoastronomy, lines up with the Nauvoo temple. I remember the talk by President Hinckley. He talked about how Nauvoo faces west,
Yes.
and how Salt Lake faces east, and he called them the bookend temples.
Bookend temples, that's right.
And my first thought was, well, that's great, but I think it's really going to be,
There's another bookend.
there's going to be one in between Salt Lake and Nauvoo, because it's right there on track.
It's good
And,
stuff, Wayne.
When I find then from, I can't cite it, the manuscript number, it's in the church headquarters, this fellow named Ed Phillips is talking to Woodruff at the Nauvoo temple, and Woodruff tells him there's going to be another city built right across from the temple. It's going to be called Zarahemla, and the temple will be built there. And that's in the church archives.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's most impressive.
Very good.
Well, Wayne, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for an interview, for access to your library, how is the best way to deal with that?
Well, my site is simply ldsarchaeology.com. Or they can call me at 715-505-6530. That's my cell. My landline into the office is 715-962-1422. Give me a call.
Sounds great.
I'm there.
Any last thought you'd like to leave our people?
You know, I would just say that it really is so fun to come out here. I find the saints, a lot of them are, they know, they're kind of confused between this two-hill business, and when they see this, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 are saying, wow, this really makes sense.
It resonates.
It does.
Yes.
And you know what? I have to say this. I just have to speak, and I think the Spirit does the closing.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. That's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work. That's correct. Okay. Wayne, my friend, it's been a pleasure.
All right, Kay.
Best of luck to you in the future.
You too. Good to see you again.
I'd like to thank Wayne for being with us. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to see him again. It's been a number of years, but we've done some things together, put some dirt under our feet, and it's been great. And we'll have other lectures similar to this in the future. Our next podcast that I'll be doing will be dealing with the trial of 5 individuals accused of the murder of Joseph Smith. And we'll see how far that goes. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening today and for sharing this ComeFollowMe2021.com website. We sure appreciate those who have been contributing on our Patreon page under Latter-day Media. To contact Kay, email him at footstepsofjoseph@gmail.com.